Hi Ed, if you want to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do in your discipline, that would be a great start really.
So I've newly switched to ski cross
Okay.
in January and having the best time. It's absolutely amazing. It's so much fun. It's taking skiing back to its roots in terms of racing against your friends.
Yeah.
You know, like you do on a ski holiday, you race your brother, you race your sister, you race your best friends down from the top to the bottom. It's basically that. So it's taking skiing right back to the beginning.
Yeah, it looks like very high adrenaline, and you know, with the greatest respect to when you're doing alpine, from an individual point of view, it can sometimes seem fairly lonely, perhaps, if I was right in saying that. But whereas in the terms of with what you do, it seems really competitive and there's quite a buzz to it, and you know, it's
just such good fun. The racing, shoulder to shoulder is exciting. It opens the sport up to just sport enthusiasts. You don't have to be an expert in skiing to understand who's won, because it's first to the bottom wins, essentially.
excellent.
So,
and how does that work for you at the moment?
it's going all right. It's learning. It's very different to alpine skiing, but
Okay.
it's an absolute buzz doing all the training. And it just, like I say, opens the doors to people who are just sports fanatics rather than ski fanatics. It's just pure sport.
Excellent. So recently you've kind of nicely signed up to be one of our Go Skiing, Go Board ambassadors, and you talk about people getting into the sport. So how did you get into this, and what tips would you give for young kids who want to get into it really?
I got into skiing on skiing holidays with my parents, and we used to go away once a year, skied for a couple of weeks in France, and I apparently, because I learned when I was sort of just before I was 3, so I can't really remember, but apparently I used to hate creche, and they said to me, well, when you can ski, you don't have to go to creche anymore. So from then on, apparently my trainers were strapped to those plastic skis, and that was it. And I think facilities like this at Hemel are fantastic for people to get in, have a go without huge expense of going away on a skiing holiday, to try it, take it where they can. And skiing we try shake the sort of stigma that it's a rich man's game, because it isn't anymore. You can do it on a cheap budget. I mean, yeah, sure, you can spend thousands of pounds doing it, but you can also spend relatively little amount doing it. So I think more people that come and have a go, the better.
Excellent. And what made you make the switch originally?
I've had a few injuries with alpine skiing, and the lack of funding and support from British Ski and Snowboard Federation. It's been really tough, and it's been a really hard road. And so I thought that I'd like a fresh challenge, something a bit new, a bit exciting. I've been looking at it, doing it for a long time, and then all of a sudden opportunity arose, and that was it. I jumped on the program and never looked back.
Great. And I think when I first met you, Ed, I was like with the greatest respect, you're a very humble person. When I first met you, in terms of you have to self-fund yourself, don't you? You do a lot of there's no funding to you, and can you describe what you have to do in the day in terms of a typical day compared to Mr. Bale, who's on probably 130?
Week's wages would fund the entire winter sport budget, I reckon. But I get up. Last week, for instance, I've been working on a building site, labouring for a week, and then into the gym in the evenings. I also then finished labouring for the day, went to the gym, went to Welling to do.
That's how you get those mighty guns on your arms, then, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Then went to Welling to run a dry slope session. Came straight to Hemel to run a snow session. So it's all go. I mean, it's making it hard for ourselves, but that's the reality of the situation we're in. I want to be a successful ski cross racer, and that's what I've got to do it. It could be worse. I could have to, my worst nightmare would be sitting in an office 9 to 5. I could have to sit in an office for 9 to 5. So I complain a bit, but in the end, it's a decision I've made and a sacrifice that I'm willing to make.
Excellent. And in terms of preparation, so let's talk about Sochi in Russia next year. In terms of things, how it's looking for you, how are things going at the moment? And
yeah, going good actually. I mean, I only switched in January, and sort of a baptism of fire in terms of my new life in ski cross. But I've picked it up pretty quickly, and just trying to learn all the sort of tricks of the trade and get comfortable with skiing, elbow to elbow. And the hardest bit I found is actually is effectively trying to put other people off while skiing down, and I still haven't quite got the ruthlessness to, if there's a door open, to shut it in front of somebody, and I'm.
Is it very much kind of, if you put the F1 scenario to it, like my old memories of Schumacher shunting Damon Hill or something like that, really, in terms of.
It's kind of, well, I mean, it's hopefully not that far in terms of shunting them up, but yeah, I mean, if you're slightly ahead and you've got the opportunity to come across in front of somebody, you kind of got to take it. And it's about, I've got to get used to doing that because you know, it's not malicious, it's racing, and I've just got to get used to you know, doing it, because people will do it to me, or you know, people do it to each other. So I've just got to get used to that, you know, ruthlessness about ski cross racing.
Wow, okay, that sounds quite intense.
It is.
But I suppose you're all friends at the end of the day when you come off, you know, and
that's what I've really found out. It's like through training. I was in Australia training in the summer, and you know, doing loads of fours up racing and getting to the bottom. Every single time you get to the bottom, everybody's like turning around, like, oh, did you see that bit? Or, oh, you knew you took me there, and then I, you know, did this, or you did that, and then I was doing it. It's just, there's no point during training do you get to the bottom and are sort of anything other than absolutely pumped about, you know, that run that you just took. It's so much fun.
That sounds absolutely amazing. So, if we look like 6 months into the future, Ed Drake's going to be on ITV, Sky Sports, you know, lifting everything, and you know, all the media attention's going to be around him. So a kid's watching the TV and he wants to be the next Ed Drake. What does he or she need to do in order to get? You mentioned, like, you know, you're doing labouring all day, you're in the gym, you're practicing. What's the key elements becoming a good to be able to compete in ski cross, basically?
I think it's determination and sort of willing to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
You know, it's from the outside, it's a very glamorous lifestyle, and don't get me wrong, it's great. You get to travel all over the place, but at the same time, it's incredibly difficult, and it is work. It is a job at the end of the day. So I think it's important that kids focus on what they're doing. You know, as long as you want it and are willing to work hard for it, because no one's going to give it to you, especially nowadays with, you know, funding and all that sort of stuff. No one's giving you anything. So you've got to do everything off your own back and be willing to make those sacrifices and not to go on that holiday, or not to go and, you know, buy that Xbox or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that stuff. You know, and at the end of the day, it's well worth it. So you've got to be willing to put in that time and effort and those sacrifices.
Fantastic. Okay, Ed, well, thank you very much for your time today.